Core AWS services. What's the difference between a security group and a network access control list, NACL? Security group, virtual firewall at instance level. Stateful. NACL, stateless firewall at subnet level. Must explicitly allow inbound and outbound. Explain the different types of EC2 instances and when you would use them. On-demand, short-term, unpredictable workloads. Reserved, long-term predictable workloads. Spot. Flexible, interruptible, highest discount. What's the difference between an EBS volume and an EFS file system? EBS, block-level storage attached to a single EC2 instance. EFS, shared scalable file system usable by multiple EC2 instances. What is Amazon S3 and its primary use cases? S3, highly scalable object storage. Used for backups, static website hosting, archives, and big data analytics. Explain the different storage classes available in S3. S3 Standard, S3 Intelligent Tiering, S3 Standard IA, S3 One Zone IA, S3 Glacier Instant Retrieval, S3 Glacier Flexible Retrieval, S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Architecture and design. Describe a microservices architecture on AWS. Independent services communicate via APIs. Deployed with ECS, EKS, ALB, RDS, or DynamoDB. How would you design a highly available and fault-tolerant web application? Use multi-tier architecture across multiple AZs. ALB with auto-scaling groups, RDS multi-AZ or Aurora. What is the principle of least privilege in the context of IAM? Grant only the permissions necessary to perform a task. Use fine-grained IAM policies. When would you choose DynamoDB over RDS? DynamoDB, NoSQL, flexible schema, high throughput, low latency. RDS, structured schema. Transactional integrity, complex joins. What's the purpose of AWS Cloud Formation? IAC service to define cloud resources, automates provisioning and updates. Security and compliance. What are some key security best practices on AWS? Least privilege, MFA, IAM roles, encryption at rest or in transit, CloudTrail, AWS WAF, AWS. Security Hub, Guard Duty, AWS Config. Explain the role of AWS IAM. IAM manages users, roles, and permissions to secure AWS resources. What is the difference between an IAM user and an IAM role? IAM user, permanent identity for person or application. IAM role, temporary permissions, ideal for instances or apps. What is AWS CloudTrail used for? Records, AWS API calls for governance, compliance, auditing. How do you ensure data is encrypted in transit and at rest? At rest, use AWS KMS, S3, EBS, RDS. In transit, use TLS SSL certificates, ALB, CloudFront. Advanced services and concepts. Explain the purpose of AWS Lambda. Serverless compute service. Run code without Managing servers. Auto scales with workload. How does AWS CloudFront improve performance? CDN caches content at edge locations to reduce latency. What is the AWS well-architected framework? 5 pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization. What is AWS Systems Manager? Automates operational tasks, patching, and data collection across AWS resources. What's the difference between an Amazon SQS queue and an Amazon SNS topic? SQS, pull-based messaging queue. SNS, push-based publish as subscribe system.